You hear these crazy numbers all the time about global wealth, right? But what do they even mean? Well, today we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to find out where the money really is. Because, spoiler alert, the story you think you know, it's pretty much a mirage. Okay, let's just start with a quick thought experiment. Imagine we could take all the liquid money in the entire world, cash, checking accounts, savings, all the easy to spend stuff, and just split it up evenly among every single person on the planet. How much do you think you'd get? Seriously, take a guess.
The answer is $15,108. Now, for a lot of us, that actually sounds pretty good, right? A nice little chunk of change for everybody.
Yeah, about that. That number is a total illusion. It's like a statistical ghost. It tells you pretty much nothing about what's really going on for the average person. So, to get the real story, we've got to dig a lot deeper. All right, first up, let's bust this whole $15,000 myth wide open. We're about to see exactly why using a simple average can be one of the most misleading things in, well, all of economics. So where does that $15,000 number even come from? It's from something called the M2 money supply. Basically, that's all the liquid, spendable money out there. We're talking about $123 trillion in cash, in bank accounts. It's the fuel that makes the global economy run every day. But, and this is a huge but, it doesn't include the stuff we actually think of as real wealth, like real estate or stocks or owning a business. This is the perfect way to see the problem. Think of it like a seesaw. When you're talking about wealth, a few super rich people sitting on one end can pull the average way up. That's why there's such a giant gap between the average and the median. The median is the person standing right in the middle. Look at the US, for example. The average wealth is over $500,000. But the median, the person in the middle, just over $100,000. That's the seesaw effect right there. And you see the exact same thing happening globally. That whole $15,000 average we started with, totally misleading. The reality for the person right in the dead center of the world's population, the median, is just $9,167. So if the average person isn't average, then where is all the money? Well, that brings us to the real wealth pyramid. And trust me, when you see how this is actually structured, the numbers are just mind-blowing. I mean, just look at this. The top 1.6% of adults on Earth own almost half of all the wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom 40%, that's billions of people, they share a tiny, tiny fraction of 1%. You know what? This isn't even a pyramid. It's more like a cliff. And this inequality isn't just about person to person. It's about place to place. The average person in the US has access to over $62,000 in liquid money. Compare that to India, where it's under $5,000. It really shows you that this isn't just about who gets rich, it's about how the entire system is built to funnel wealth to certain places. And that's the perfect lead-in to the system itself. Because if you really want to get a handle on global wealth, you have to understand the incredible power of just one currency, the US dollar. Okay, a huge piece of this puzzle is something called the petrodollar. Here's the deal. Since the 1970s, oil, which is basically the lifeblood of the global economy, is priced and sold in US dollars. That one simple rule creates this constant, massive demand for American currency all over the world. Why? Because if you're a country and you need oil, you need dollars first. And this creates this crazy powerful feedback loop they call petrodollar cycling. It works like this. Oil gets sold in dollars. The countries selling the oil end up with these giant piles of dollars. And what do they do with all that cash? Well, they need a safe place to park it, so they invest it right back into the US, buying things like treasury bonds. This whole cycle means the rest of the world is basically helping to fund the US government and keep its interest rates low. But wait, there's more. Another tool in the toolbox is something called swap lines. The best way to think about it is like a financial fire hose. When a crisis hits and everyone on the planet is desperate for dollars, the US Federal Reserve can just turn on the taps and flood its allies with billions. This power just cements the dollar's role as the go-to safe currency when things get hairy. Okay, so we've got this super unequal system all built on the power of the dollar. But that whole system is now facing a challenge like nothing it's ever seen before. We are literally on the brink of the biggest financial shift in modern history. And no, this challenge isn't coming from some rival country or a new cryptocurrency. It's coming from the inside. It's a quiet but totally unstoppable generational change. $84 trillion. Let that sink in. That's how much wealth is about to be passed down from one generation to the next, and that's just in the United States. It's a number so big, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. In fact, one big wealth report recently said this will make affluent millennials the richest generation in history. Think about that. For a generation that's been through one economic crisis after another, this is a massive, seismic shift in fortune coming their way.
But here's the real kicker, the most important part of this whole thing. This new money, it comes with completely new values. The generations inheriting all this cash have totally different priorities. They're way more likely to say, hey, I want my money invested in things that are sustainable, that are ethical. And that's not just a nice thought. It has the real power to reshape entire markets. It can make it cheaper for green companies to grow and a lot more expensive for polluters to do business.
So where does all this leave us? When we put all of these pieces together and look to the future, what happens next? You know, after peeling back the layers on that fake average, seeing the shocking reality of inequality, and understanding the systems holding it all in place, it kind of feels like we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. The real question isn't how much money is there in the world. It's what the next generation is going to do with that $84 trillion. Their values could literally reshape how capitalism works, pushing all that money toward completely different goals. Maybe, just maybe, that money mirage is finally starting to clear, and what we're about to see isn't just who has the money, but what they actually believe in.